All right, good morning. We are back with the MT the Principal podcast. I had to change the name because the Principal's Office podcast, I guess, was taken. So we changed that. But I am here with two very special guests today. I have Mr. Meke Smith, which everyone knows and loves from West Orange. So good morning, Mr. Smith. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Turner. Thank you for having me.
And I have Miss Rebecca Hunt. She is our coordinator for advanced studies from our district office, and they're here to lend some insight on advanced tracks, specifically as it relates to our students getting into colleges. So good morning, Ms. Hunt.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I just wanted to start out this morning by saying I have a question. So I'm a parent, as you know. I have a ninth grader. Becky, what should I do as a parent of a ninth grader to maximize the bright futures opportunities for my student as she progresses through high school?
So I think the first question to ask is whenever you're a freshman, it's what are you interested in, right? You come right out of middle school, you've been taking a lot of different classes, and you kind of find out what your area is that you like. So whether it's science or math, or it's more social studies, or maybe even like ELA. I think then looking at classes that are advanced studies options. So what can I take? Do I want to take AP? Do I want to take IB? And then looking at those classes that are available in ninth grade. So typically a computer science principles class, or a Cambridge English general paper class, or AP human geography. So if I'm interested in one of those, I take one of those classes my freshman year, and I find, okay, maybe I think I want to continue on this AP track, or I want to continue on a Cambridge track. And then really from there, it's thinking about, at that point, where do you want to go to college? So when you're in ninth grade, it's kind of hard to start thinking about college. It seems really far off in the distance. So I think after ninth grade is a really good time, after you've explored some of your advanced studies options, to say, hey, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? So if I'm going to go to school in Florida for Bright Futures, I think that, you have to decide also, like, what kind of test taker are you? Because that really is part of it, right? We know that some schools are test optional now, but a lot of schools are bringing tests back. So, we have SAT, and it's a 1340 on the SAT for that 100% Bright Futures. So if you are staying in the state of Florida, Cambridge can be a great path. Earning a Cambridge diploma grants you that 100% Bright Futures without SAT or ACT requirement. And I really think that if you complete that diploma, you complete at the end of your junior year, and you've locked in that Bright Futures, you're still striving for that SAT score, because you end up having the Cambridge kind of like as a backup plan. So I think that really that's the best route if you're going to continue in Florida. So if you're concerned about, I'm not really great at taking standardized tests, I'm really worried about SAT or ACT, having that Cambridge diploma and earning it and knowing you've locked it in your junior year is, I think, the best route as a safety net for ensuring you have the Bright Futures.
Oh, no, that's really great insight. And before I switch over to Meke, because I would love to ask him a few school-specific questions, my nature, or the skeptical nature, would say, if you're a kid that can pass 7 AICE tests, do you actually need this testing waiver from getting the Cambridge diploma? Like, the same kids that are passing all these elite tests, do they even need it? I mean, it sounds like we have some data from the district that contradicts what I feel, right? Is that true?
We do. So Cambridge exams are different than AP exams and different than SAT. So AP and SAT are going to be more of like your standardized tests. So you're going to be multiple choice. You have your free response section. You're not doing a whole lot of writing. Cambridge exams are all written. They're tell me what you know. So if you're not a great standardized test taker, it's going to be a great option for you to really tell those that are grading your exam, hey, this is what I know about this subject, and the scoring is a bit different. When we look at that data across the district for Cambridge, 93% of our kids who earn a Cambridge diploma would not have met the SAT or ACT requirement for the 100% Bright Futures. So it really does matter to a lot of kids who aren't great standardized test takers. I was not a great standardized test taker, so I wish that this would have been an option for me when I was that age.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is 93% of those kids that with the ACE diploma wouldn't have got the 100% Bright Futures had they not got the ACE diploma.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that insight. And just to throw it over to Meke for a minute, you're here at West Orange with us every day. What is your recommendation for a ninth grade student coming in and for their path, their ninth grade year? I mean, we'll probably get into the older years in a minute, but as a ninth grade student coming in, what would you suggest a student take?
Well, I agree with my colleague. I don't think there's any question when you talk to college advisors and college counselors, they're always saying that students should exhaust the curriculum at their school. So they should take the highest level courses they can take at their high school. Dual enrollment is wonderful, and it's a great option for many kids. But the gold standard for rigor is considered to be AP and Cambridge, and that is the track I take. I think we have two great options at West Orange to introduce ourselves to the program. You can take English General Paper as a ninth grader, you can take Human Geography as a ninth grader, and there may be some more AP classes opening up for ninth graders. So I think to get your feet wet and to make yourself the most competitive, you need to get on that AP and Cambridge AICE track as soon as possible.
Good. Yeah, I totally agree. I know it can be daunting for kids a little bit, but you know, I feel now you've worked with our teachers a lot longer that our teachers are really good about working with our kids and making sure they can be successful and not get too scared out the gate.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that schools have to determine is what is their philosophy. Does a child leave qualified to be an AP student, or does a child enter qualified as an AP student? And I think our teachers and our administration has always had the belief that it is our job to bring them up to AP standards, to bring them up to Cambridge AICE standards. And so we're going to give kids an opportunity to take those advanced studies courses, even if some of the metrics might say they're not ready or they're not prepared. But we've seen so many success stories here at West Orange of kids, when given the opportunity, they do amazing work in those advanced classes.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I'm with you. And I think we should push the kids and stretch them to try their best and see what happens. So, no, thanks for that insight. So back to you, Becky, questions for our students. You know, the question at hand is, should I take AP or should I take Cambridge? And I know you talked about it a little bit with the testing, where the Cambridge tests are written more and what do you know, and the versus the multiple choice tests of AP. But what are your thoughts on Florida schools? Do they want to see Cambridge versus AP? Does it matter to them? And then what about out-of-state schools? Should we be, if our family went to the University of Virginia and that's what we want to do, should we go one track or the other? Or how do they find out which track to go on?
So I think it depends, and it's really specific to where you want to attend school. I also think that like Mr. Smith said, is that it really matters. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. This is a live podcast. We can cut it if we want to. No. The question about I have a child right now that's a ninth grader. She's on this track, right? She's probably going to do a Florida school, but she might not. So my question is, as a parent coming in with a ninth grader who's on this very advanced track, but I want to keep the options open for her to apply to an Ivy or to Notre Dame or the University of Virginia. Like I said, should I be steering her away from AICE and to an AP track, or should I just, like Meke said very expertly, the most rigorous courses at my school?
Yeah. So I think it depends, but I think the real difference is in the program. If I'm going to go to school in Florida, I think that Cambridge is a great route if I want to make sure I have that safety net for 100% bright futures. The nice thing about earning a Cambridge diploma is it's really flexible. So I can take AP courses, I can take some Cambridge courses to get my diploma, and then I can also take some dual enrollment if I choose to take dual enrollment. And those are all great options. So just like Meke had shared, really, your universities want to see that you've taken the most rigorous courses on your campus. The nice thing about the Cambridge diploma is a lot of schools in Florida want to see that you've taken some of those higher level math class, your AP pre-calculus, your AP calculus A, B, and BC, and you can still continue that math track with earning the Cambridge diploma. So a mix, I think, of both, but really having that there's not really a right answer or wrong answer when it comes to Florida, because we're going to see acceptance for AP and Cambridge. The only difference is really Cambridge is going to give you that safety net. When you're applying to schools out of state, AP is really going to be king when it comes to that, just because we know that credit is accepted at all universities nationally. When it comes to Ivy League schools don't technically accept credit for anything. So a lot of folks think, well, I'm going to get credit for this. I scored a 5 on this exam. Most Ivy League schools are like, that's really great. You got a 5. We might give you honors college standing for that, but you're still going to have to take those courses on that campus. So Ivies are definitely a different vibe when it comes to what those courses mean. And mostly Ivies really want to see that you're more of a well-rounded student. So going back to the part about test optional, a lot of Ivies are bringing back tests. They want to see that you're working hard academically, but also that you're doing things outside of academics. You're taking on other extracurriculars. And I say that not that you're just taking on every extracurricular possible. I'm the president of 14 clubs and I am on all of these different sports teams. I'm trying to get a varsity letter. All those things are great, but they also want to see that you're passionate about something. So what's something that really makes you stand out, that you really care about? I know we have a student in OCPS that really was into computer science, being a female in computer science, and started a club for girls in computer science at her neighboring middle school and did that all 4 years of high school. Something like that shows that you're really passionate, that you're doing something different. You also care about your community and giving back to that community. That also means a lot when it comes to Ivies. NACAC is an organization that gives you a rank of what college admissions consider every year. So they release the 2023 results. We don't have 2024 yet. But at the top of that is about what grades you earn in your AP, IB, or Cambridge courses. So it's not your exam grade, it's your grade, your class grade. And really they want to know that you can handle the rigor of the course, that you go in there and you put in the work and you put in the effort. And I always like to say, people ask, like, what's the difference if I just want to take dual enrollment? Dual enrollment's easier. These kids always say it's easier, right? Sure. But really it also goes back to like what type of student you are. So one of our teachers at Cypress Creek High School said they get asked a lot about, why should my kid take this AP or Cambridge psychology class when they could just take dual enrollment? And it really, the type of student you are matters, in terms that AP and Cambridge and IB you're going to get the college level course, but you're going to get it with high school support. So you're going to have your teacher being a little more flexible. They're maybe going to provide you more support along the way. When you take a dual enrollment class, you're on your own. You're managing your own time. You're managing your own assignments. You miss an assignment, don't turn it in. That's it, because it's college, right? So really in high school, you're getting that advanced college level class with the high school support. So to answer your question, I think it really just depends, and I would really advise that students research the colleges that they're interested in attending, know what those colleges are looking for the major that they're interested in. Some schools you just do a general admission, so you're doing like your common application, and then some schools you're applying specifically to a college. So I know that Cornell has one of the higher acceptance rates of the Ivies, but Cornell has you apply to a specific college that you're interested in attending. So if you want to be an education major, you're applying to the College of Education. So if you're applying to a school like that, it would take time to look at what do they want in an education major. Are they wanting to see that I volunteered at an elementary school, or they wanted to see I did an after school program. But I think that academics is just the beginning of that, and academics help you explore what it is that you'd want to do outside of school. And I always think about, don't ask yourself, what do I want to do when I grow up? Ask yourself, what problem do I want to solve? What problem do I want to help solve in society and be a part of? And that should kind of guide what you do in high school to help you get there as an adult and be able to contribute to the world as a whole. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really good insight. We had a podcast on Friday and we talked to our PTSO president, and it's very general about a few things. But one of the themes we talked about was how kids are constantly comparing themselves to each other because of social media and everything online. And so it's like, sometimes it can give you this overwhelming feeling of I'm not good enough because look at what they're doing, even if what they're doing is not actually what they're doing, it looks like it on social media. So I know that can be very daunting. And, this is kind of a sidebar, but my recommendation as a principal is just for kids to have a great high school experience. And, the rigorous courses, yes, you want to put yourself in a good position, but you don't want to sacrifice your, youth and, your life, so do clubs, do sports, and, I kind of jokingly said on Friday, but it's the truth. I was not put in any rigorous courses in high school, 0.
I was an athlete, so they said just play your sports and hang out over there, and don't worry about it. No AP, no advanced courses. I took 2 maths, Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. Never took anything else because you didn't have to. I didn't take anything. And then, when it came down to do an ACT test, I got a 21. Well, of course, I didn't take any advanced courses, and so you have to kind of fight out of that for a long time. But the other side of that is I had fun. I mean, when I say fun, I played basketball, I played tennis, I was in choir, I was doing all these things. So I do think there's a balance. The other thing that I'm sure you know of, but when I became an administrator, I worked for a year at the high school office as a senior administrator, and Dr. Border started this great initiative, which was like an AP scholar recognition. And I didn't know much about AP at the time. I hadn't really been in that world much. And there were kids from schools that had passed 15 AP tests before their senior year. And I was thinking like, what? Like, I don't even know 15 AP tests before their senior year, but it's crazy to see what some kids are doing. And like from that, I think that's great. I wouldn't recommend that path for my own child, just because to do that much work, it's like, what else? Are you doing anything else? Maybe they are, maybe they're geniuses. I'm certainly not, but it's interesting to see just the varied paths. And, I did say this on Friday too, is I speak to kids, and Mr. Smith I know does for sure, because kids come back to see him all the time. I see the kids walking by to go see Mr. Smith, but he's talking to the kids from the last 10 years, and I'm talking to seniors that are at South Florida, UF, FSU, FAU, Southeastern, and Lakeland, and they all love it. They all love where they're at, so it's like some kids get really, fixed mindset on, I got to go to Florida, or I got to go to this. And if they do, great. And if they don't, they're going to love where they go. So, it's just all about the journey, and I'm sure they're going to have a great experience no matter where they are. I mean, I remember 5 years ago, and this is not to say anything negative about the University of South Florida, but some of the kids here that, I think I'm just going to go to USF. And now they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing. I would never go anywhere else. And they're just doing this all the time. Like, oh, balls, it's like they would never think about going anywhere else. So, but it's an interesting path for different kids, and no path has to be the same. So just to throw it over to Mr. Smith, you've done AP here for a good time now.
I have.
Well, what are your thoughts on our AP program here at West Orange, and how it benefits our students?
Well, I think our AP program continues to improve, and is really fantastic. Last year we had the highest score we've ever had in the history of the program as far as our overall pass rate. And that's a testament not to my leadership, but to the work of the teachers and to the investment of the students. And I love the fact that we have so many AP offerings. That's one of the things, as Cambridge is an evolving program. AP is a little more established, so there are more courses available right now for our kids here at West Orange. So we have 28 courses. Essentially, the only courses we don't have are African American Studies and the more exotic languages. We don't have Japanese, we don't have German, we don't have Latin. We just can't find teachers for courses like that.
Sure.
So we have 28, 29 AP offerings. There's a path for everyone, and our kids really embrace the class and the exam at the end. The vast majority of our kids sit and take their exam. They look forward to taking the exam, and they wait for bated breath for their scores. And just to piggyback off what my colleague was talking about, there are two things that are different, but they're linked, and that is getting college credit for your AP or Cambridge AICE exam and getting college admission. I think that Rebecca's right. It's more about now colleges being so much more selective about what they're giving credit for. It makes you more competitive when you take these courses, so it helps a lot more with college admissions than it does with college credit. And that is something that kids need to understand. It's a competitive marketplace, and you have to make yourself as competitive as possible when you're applying to these schools.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. I mean, that's a great point. I think it's interesting what you said, Becky, about the grades in the class, because I think that's one way we're trying to make things better here at West Orange, is helping our teacher understand that the grades are very important, and the rigorous coursework is important, but getting a C or a D could be problematic, right? So, and you don't want a kid to quit because it's so hard, and finding that objective nature of what's too hard and where they can be successful. So I think we've got to help kids be successful in the courses, but still push their limits and just kind of help them get through the grade. So it's kind of an interesting conversation that, I think we're constantly working on at our level, but I think we've made great strides in kids being successful in AP courses here. So I think we've covered all the topics. So I thank you for your time. Before we go, maybe just one last kind of parting thought about advanced studies in our district and specifically at our school, but you're kind of applying it to a district which we like and we need because it's good to see how it's working other places. So let me ask you this question, Becky. The schools that are doing Cambridge really, really well, and you're seeing a lot of success with the Cambridge diploma, what are you seeing coming out of those schools? Like what could we do better here? Not specifically us, because you haven't really seen us, but like what are they doing well?
I really think that, every program is going to look different at every single school. You're going to have different teachers at different schools. And I think sometimes it also has to do with how the community maybe views the program. And also think like what Meke shared is the program's still evolving, it's still growing. So it really, as it develops over time, it could look differently. And AP and Cambridge are essentially both college level programs, so college level coursework that you can take in high school. I think that, the more students become familiar with it, the more it will grow. We have a lot of kids that take English General Paper in ninth grade. They take that course and they realize, wow, Cambridge is actually pretty good. I wrote in this class and did a lot of writing, but I wrote about things I was interested in. And then they continue on that Cambridge path. So I think it being kind of this unknown thing, it makes it a little small in the beginning, but it does grow. Some of our programs that do really well, they've had the program for quite a few years, and the community is really familiar with it. And then they've also seen students that have gone to college and been incredibly successful. There's actually a research study out regarding students who attended Florida State University and earned a Cambridge diploma and how they were outperforming their peers their first year of college. So I think a lot of the skills that you develop in that really help, change your trajectory. But I think, like I said, over time it will change and it will grow. But I think all of our programs in the district have a lot to offer to students and to give them options. I know for my own daughter, she took English General Paper in ninth grade. She was like, wow, I think I did terrible in this course. And then she got an A on the exam, which is like the highest score you can get on a Cambridge exam. And she's like, actually, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I could take another one of those courses. Yeah. So, you really have to find out what works for you. And that's why I think really exploring things your freshman year to say, hey, what is it I really want to do and what do I really like and enjoy is a great thing. And then just taking whatever interests you after that and really just challenging yourself. I was also one of those kids that I didn't do much in high school that had to do with advanced studies coursework. So, I think it's really just like finding your niche and saying, maybe I can try this new thing. Even if I get a B in the class, that's okay. I challenged myself, and I think that's what matters to colleges and universities. And I think the more the programs grow, the more interest that we'll have and the more robust they'll be. But really, it's also not locking yourself in. If you don't want to earn a Cambridge diploma, don't earn a Cambridge diploma. If you don't want to do a capstone diploma, don't do a capstone diploma. You could take a collection of Cambridge courses and AP and dual enrollment to make your own pathway. So there's no set path that you have to be on. It's, you choose what you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what high school is all about. It's about finding where you fit.
Yeah, and I think my older self was much more inclined to push myself to do very difficult things than my high school self was. But if I had to go back and do it again, I probably would have done what you're saying, a little combination of different things and done sports, but also taken some rigorous coursework. And, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson famously said, he was like, and this is where I have a problem as a principal, but also as someone with a legal education of like the subjective nature of grading, right? It's like, I got to see, I must be doing terrible, but the teacher has an impact on that. And it's not to say teachers are bad or bad at all, but you do see programs that are flourishing because the teacher is so good and the power of a great teacher and what they can do. And that's hopefully what we want to put in front of us, in front of our kids here. But and then to throw it over to you, Meke, to close it out, what are your advice to you've seen all these kids come through here, through your NHS program and our high level kids. I always talk about Sean Lewis because I love Sean, who's at Yale. Doing great
doing
things.
quite well.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Amazing.
Working on a satellite
kid.
as we speak.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is your advice to a kid to become Sean Lewis? How do you get to that level?
Well, it's going to be a little difficult to be Sean Lewis because you have to be born with some gray matter and an IQ of about 150. But what I would like to say to both students and parents is that there is no magic formula for getting into your dream school or assuring success. What one has to do is find the proper path for you, and what worked for one student may not work for you. I like to think of our advanced studies program here at West Orange as railroad tracks. They run parallel to each other and they support each other. So it's very easy. You could take and get your Cambridge diploma. You could take enough AP classes to get your AP Scholar with distinction. That makes you an incredibly competitive and market yourself very well for colleges. The most important thing is you find a holistic approach to high school because that's what colleges are looking for. They're looking for a well-rounded individual who's part of their community and will be a contributing part of their community. A child who goes into the library and studies for 23 hours a day and comes out to eat lunch and goes back to the library for another 23 hours will do well in college, but they're not a contributing member of that community.
Sure.
So they want to see kids who are involved. They want to see kids who will make the place where they go for the next 4 years a better place and make the people around them better. There's no magic formula, but the most important thing is if you find a path, or if you do a both and with Cambridge, or you do an either or with Cambridge or AP, that you find classes and coursework that you do well in, and that piques your interest and makes you want to continue to learn. And if you do that, most of the time, I've seen with our kids, they bloom where they're planted. As you said, wherever they go, they do extremely well. If they push themselves, to be rigorous, if they challenge themselves, they bloom where they're planted. And most of the time, when a kid works as hard as they can and is a total person and has embraced a holistic approach, the college admissions works out almost all the time.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great advice. And because I have a little podcast machine, I have little sound effects. You won't hear them, but it'll be on the tape. So I'm going to give you guys a little round of applause. So thank you so much. It's on the tape. But thank you guys for your time, and I really appreciate it.